The floor is yours.
Thank you, Saulius. Welcome, everybody. Good morning. Depending on where you connect to our webinar, it's called Galileo for Surveying. If you would place surveying with high precision, you would see pretty much the same slides. So we would like to give you a general introduction to Galileo, but also then connect it with high precision applications. As Saulius has said, we will try to leave room for questions towards the end. It will not be possible for us to entertain you for 1.5 hours, but we want to do it below 1 hour and then give the floor to you in order to enter into a discussion. So what will we see now? We will see shortly who we are. We will see where the European GNSS programs are at for the time being. We will look at current and future market and technology trends. Then we will make the curve towards high accuracy, surveying and mapping. And last but not least, we would like to explain to you where you can find more information about our funding opportunities. So, who we are. Basically, Galileo is one of 2 European flagship programs, both of which are managed by the European Commission. So the European Commission is the program manager, if you like. And then today we will look at the left-hand side. More precisely, we will look at Galileo. We did have a separate webinar already on EGNOS. So if you are specifically interested in EGNOS, you can find the recording of that webinar on our respective websites. When it comes to Galileo and EGNOS, you see the circle on the left-hand side. That's the European GNSS Agency. And what we are doing is basically what you read below: market development. That's our department. We do security. And then finally, we are in charge of the service provision. Our headquarters, this is where we are talking to you now. It's based in Prague. Altogether, we have some other locations. You can read it on the slides. You see that we are a pretty colorful bunch of people. We are 160 staff, I think, plus minus, and we come from the majority of the EU member states. You see there are some spots left, so if you have some talent in your countries, please send them to us. We would like to have at least one representative from each member state. Now, what we do, this is who we are, what we do. And let's start on the left-hand side. People typically or often refer to the GNSS market or the GNSS markets. In reality, there's no such thing than a GNSS market. There are the real markets, and some of which are using GNSS. You see them here on your left-hand side, and you see also that the surveying and mapping or high precision part, it's one of the markets that we cover. So you can imagine that if you put this matrix together, looking at the top side of the slide where you see the value chain, you will understand that all of these markets are very different from each other. And if you want to basically develop these markets, have an impact in these markets, you are faced with a matrix that is quite complex. So our objective and mission is to touch the right spots in order to have an impact on these markets. How are we trying to do that? First, we want to understand the markets and the users and the trends. You will see later on in our presentation some key publications that we make visible about these insights and publish them, share with you. Then stimulate demand and adoption. This is basically our whole repertoire of market development actions. There's many different ones, out of which you will see some examples later on in our slides. There's a user consultation platform that is basically starting at the user level in order to translate it to system requirements ultimately. And other measures you will see more in detail as we go on. And then finally, and this was also mentioned before, we do have some funding opportunities, namely two central ones that we would like to introduce to you later, in order to also provide you with the means to make a difference. At this point, we'll hand to Alina, looking at this very matrix from a surveying and mapping perspective.
Thank you, Reinhard. This is Alina speaking. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to the connected participants. I will take off from now. We will do this in a dialogue. Let's go to where we are today with the Galileo deployment. As after the 25th of July, 26 satellites are from the Galileo constellations are already orbiting the Earth. More satellites are already bought and are under preparation. After the Galileo initial services declaration, Galileo it's a reality and it's providing already services. So it's a reality already today. A few more words about Galileo. Galileo is a worldwide navigation system all made in EU and is the only GNSS constellation that is under civilian control. It is compatible with other constellations as GNSS, GLONASS, they do. And a few features is that it offers open services free of charge on multiple frequencies. And another feature that's worth mentioning at this stage is the signal authentication. It provides trustability for civilians, and additionally, also worth mentioning, the high accuracy service free of charge with global coverage. We will take a deep dive on these services later on. That's just to give you the full picture at this stage already. On the picture to the right, you see in orange the unique Galileo differentiators, such as the high accuracy, the service authentication mentioned, and the multipath resistance, that combined with the other constellations enable the development of new added services and also improve the existing services based on GNSS. And how about we can have the system up and running? How it's the adoption into the devices and the consumer platforms? It's continuously growing, and already the majority of the professional devices have adopted and integrated Galileo already. Increasingly, many mass market consumer platforms have done so, with a very large, with the numbers going up every day, including for smartphones and wearable goods. As Galileo is also under civilian control, there is one platform that allows access to all this one-stop shop, is the one-stop shop for all the Galileo information for users. It's a web platform that has documents on almanacs, end-user notifications, electronic libraries like the service definition documents and so on, notifications, as well as, very important, the help desk, where users can submit queries and they can receive notifications straight into their inbox about system status. Another important statistics we publish is the performance reports on a quarterly basis. I'll give you a snapshot about that on this slide. Here it's a snapshot of such quarterly reports. What you see here, you see the committed targets versus the real targets. The main message here is that Galileo is outperforming the minimum performance level targets already. So we are doing really well. Another activity that is performed, managed by GSA, is the monitoring and assessment of service provision. This is done via the Galileo Reference Center that is providing an independent monitoring. On the right, you see the high-level architecture and operational concept, where centralized by GRC is the raw data acquisition, the product generations, and so on and so forth, monitoring and controlling of the service provision. What is also interesting is that this is not an independent, only centralized activity. There is the core facility situated in the Netherlands, and the member states are contributors to the GRC. So data, products, and expertise from 23 organizations from 14 countries are contributing to the GRC monitoring activities. So far, maybe other possibilities to contribute from your national networks, reference products, timing labs will be available in the future in due time. So please keep an eye at the website. As already mentioned by Reinhard, users are at the center of Galileo. The main platform that we use for that is the user consultation platform. This allows the direct interactions with users and provides the users the platform to input their needs straight to the program. This is centralized into user requirement document. The first session was will be wrapped up shortly into the user requirement documents. This is by market segment, so you will see soon published a user requirement documents for mapping and surveying, encompassing all the GNSS user requirements and highlighting also Galileo added value. The next user consultation platform will be held in the context of EU Space Week in Marseille in December 2018. So if you like to register, that's already possible. Check this link, please. We move on towards the market and technology trends. As mentioned, the GSA is monitoring the GNSS global market and the technology trends to ensure that the products and services it offers, they're top-notch and up-to-date. So we'll provide you the main trends that we have registered in our publications, focusing on surveying and mapping. So first of all, we are reporting that construction, mapping, and cadastral industry are continuously growing, and they are still the main contributors to GNSS devices shipments in precision market. Already in 2016, 95% of the shipments were represented by these top markets, both person-based and machine control. Additionally, the total amount of GNSS shipment devices is expected to grow. We expect that in the coming decade, there will be a fourfold increase as respect of year 2015. Therefore, its trend is positive. Additionally, there's very recent developments that impact the surveying segment and are mostly driven by GNSS signal structure and also by the chipset design. So first of all, there are increasingly many GNSS satellites and multi-constellations and multi-frequency capabilities. So we make by now use of the full GNSS frequency spectrum. And what it means concretely for users, that, for example, trick-error ambiguity resolutions is becoming, has more frequencies of choices, and therefore having a significant push. Additionally, extra white-laning algorithms for example, faster times to first fix for RTK and faster convergence time for PPP are also driven forward, as well as a better elimination of ionospheric refraction, therefore what is called ionospheric corrections. Additionally, recently we have faced a huge push towards the receiver features and technologies. Here you see a list. To pick just two of them, for example, the antennas are allowed to be optimized according to the needs. For example, you can the receivers could be connected to a single antenna or to a dual antenna, which in combination with the inertials allow for a full 3D positioning in dynamic or difficult environments. Picking on these difficult environments, constrained environments, let me also mention the multipath mitigation. Increasingly, many algorithms have been embedded in the receiver level, but also the receivers have been further modernized to encompass more frequencies. So, for example, E5 frequency, and that's where that allows for better multipath mitigation. And in that one, Galileo is the leading constellation that provides E5 frequency globally at the moment. Further on, we also experience in the receiver technologies enhanced multi-sensor integration, where tight hybridization between GNSS, LiDAR, robotics, and mobile mapping opening further doors to improve the user equipment and performance of positioning. Another trend is synergies between GNSS and Earth observation. On one hand, Copernicus provides a global vision of the environment, and eGNSS provides punctual, precise guidance of where the spot of interest is. I will spend the next 3 slides on this, so let me go on for now, and I will provide more information for the next one. Price is another very important factor. On one hand, the price quality ratio of the receivers is continuously improving in the favor of customers, of end users. Therefore, the good quality devices get cheaper. Additionally, the augmentation services such as RTK and PPP also experience a price decrease. Sometimes they're even provided for free or for a very low fee. And this is also a recent trend in the last few years. And probably the last one is also very known to all of you, UAV drone penetration into mapping. What we experience is that drones increasingly provide aerial imagery and even LiDAR data for precise mapping. And they slowly have the tendency to replace, or faster actually, of previous 2D and 3D measurement tools, for example, such as aerial photography and so on. As mentioned, I'd like to spend just a bit more time about the synergies between GNSS and the other flagship space program of the European Union. And I will particularize with some examples focused on mapping activities and surveying activities. First example is about environmental management. As mentioned, Copernicus provides a global view of, in this case, example, land use, vegetation state, including forests, quality of the water, and so on. On the other hand, eGNSS is providing guidance to areas of interest, and, for example, in situ measurements that are enabled also by Galileo, such as UAV or geotagging of samples, for example, of water or of soil. Together, used in a synergetic way, they support the preservation of environment and also facilitate the intervention teams to get to the areas of interest. A second interesting example for the community of surveying is the landslides and land movements. On one hand, Copernicus is providing frequent and worldwide measurements of the displacements of the land masses, as well as on vertical displacements. With high precision eGNSS antennas and receivers, it's possible to register temporal and horizontal displacements. Combined, they're providing a enhanced capability to monitor subsidence of tectonic plates and also anticipate environmental hazards. And if we can anticipate them, that also supports early intervention in case of, for example, landslides. The third example, at the edge between urban planning and urban mapping and smart cities and other recent hot topics. What can it provide for urban planning? Copernicus is supporting monitoring of urban growth, areas, green areas, new inhabited areas, land use, and the changes, detecting illegal landfills. On the other hand, eGNSS supports determination of parcels, as well as geotagging utilities, infrastructure, key points, and so on. But it's not all. Additionally, by using eGNSS cars, like we increasingly face such a reality today, support is provided to monitor and manage the traffic flow. Together, public authorities can use the two systems to have a better spatial planning and define new urban corridors, design and monitor infrastructures and utilities, and also for reinforcing the law, as in case of traffic. With that, I'd like to move on to another trend, the technology trend we have identified, a growing potential for usage of high precision solutions to mass market devices. Three main drivers here. On one hand, the main driver is the Android open access to GNSS raw measurements. Already 70 smartphones are enabled with Galileo today. You can check it at our website, the model by model list. Therefore, opening new possibilities for developers. GSA is at the forefront of this initiative, leveraging the GNSS raw measurement access, for example, into the raw measurement task force workshop that was held in May. There are also publications that were driven by GSA. You can also find them available online. On the other hand, of high precision towards mass market, we see the dual frequency mass market receivers. As you might know, even the first dual frequency smartphone was recently launched on the market, therefore also bringing the possibility for increased precision to mobile phones and other wearable good devices. And the third driver, as already mentioned, devices are getting cheaper. We as well enabled by better and additional features, easy to use receivers and equipment, as well as cheaper and cheaper augmentation services. Therefore, all these seem to indicate there is a high precision positioning entering into becoming more and more reality, even for civilians and mass market users. As mentioned, these trends are collected into our two key publications, the market report, the GNSS capturing the trends and applications at the global scale, and the GNSS receiver and trends technology, the so-called user technology report. Next edition is almost to be published. It will be launched shortly at key events. And there, I think our listeners today are aware these are downloadable for free, and it's a return of the public investment in Galileo, one of them. We are moving on towards eGNSS, a deep dive into the advantages of Galileo on surveying and mapping. Let's not forget about EGNOS. As already mentioned, we had a dedicated webinar on EGNOS, and the presentation is available for free. Key messages, sub-meter accuracy for free, and it's mostly usable for aviation. However, it's also widely adopted for mapping activities in need of sub-meter accuracy. There is the service that provides corrections via internet called EDAS. If you want to revisit this dedicated information, please check this webinar that was held in June. Now about Galileo. The services of Galileo are listed at the right side. They are freely accessible services for positioning, timing, and navigation message authentication. The OS service. Then the Public Regulated Services, PRS, is an encrypted service designed for greater robustness and higher availability. This is mostly dedicated to registered users and not easily accessible for civilians. Search and Rescue, so-called SAR service, it assists locating people in distress, and it has the return link service, RLS, that confirms that help is on the way. So people can organize their waiting time before help reaches them. It's also a differentiator of Galileo. The High Accuracy Service, HAS, it's a high accuracy positioning service available for free globally. The last one is the Signal Authentication Service, or SAS, that will provide increased robustness and for professional applications by providing signal authentication, basically a digital signature telling that the signal is coming indeed from the Galileo satellites and not from spoofers. These services mentioned are organized over the frequencies of Galileo. We already mentioned the open service single frequency on its two signal components, E1B and E1C. The dual frequency service encompassing also E5. Free multi-frequency, what do we mean? So besides the E1 and E5, there is also a E6B, which is unencrypted and therefore available for ranging. Additional features on this E6, there will be the high accuracy service being transmitted, and the signal authentication, the SAS service will be available via E6C. What does it mean concretely for surveyors? As mentioned, the open service is one of the main ones to be of interest for surveyors. The E1, E5, E6 multi-frequency provides multiple advantages. For example, better results in harsh environments, for example, urban canyons, under the tree canopy, and so on. Why is that? Because E5 alt-hoc modulation is more robust against multipath errors. Additionally, the Galileo signals have a higher SNR, signal-to-noise ratio. And last but not least, also because Galileo can be used together with other constellations, and therefore more satellites are visible when, for example, the sky is obstructed by buildings or trees and so on. Other advantage of Galileo Open Service and Open Signals are increased availability, continuity, and reliability of measurements. Also enabled by, as mentioned, additional satellites, but also by improved geometry when one is performing surveying activities. Integrating Galileo to PPP solutions, it also leads to improved convergence time, as already reported by some of the PPP early integrators of Galileo. Additionally, as we mentioned, the key multi-frequency, especially for surveying, this is of high importance. The second frequency of choice, it's obviously E5, L5, and increasingly of importance over L2. Why is that? Because E5, L5 is a protected frequency shared by all GNSS and SBAS, and it's also more widely separated from L1, therefore minimizing the IONO-free linear combinations. By being more widely spread, it's more easy to make the difference that helps the receiver to eliminate the ionosphere errors. Additionally, the E6 third frequency, it's a high quality open signal with superior modulation and chipping rate. It's the best frequency for tree laning, and by having, as already mentioned, having more than two frequencies, multiple signals bring greater reliability and accuracy. Commercial service. Commercial service is not so commercial anymore, since now goes for free. We call it high accuracy service. This targets 20 centimeters accuracy globally, provided without any additional communication channels by the satellite constellation itself. Therefore, it eliminates the need to be close to base stations to get corrections, and it also, at high latitudes, it improves the line of sight and the coverage, since you'll always have 4 satellites at least available, even at northern latitudes. Additionally, broadcasting external data in real time across the globe via the TPP Galileo E6. It also further reduces the convergence time by using triple frequency. It's expected to be fully operational by 2020. And here to the right, you see a public list of targeted signal data and features. You can check the slides also as you receive them afterwards. How about the integration into the surveying market and into the surveying equipment? So on one side, the augmentation service providers are increasingly adopting Galileo. The majority of the providers of RTK have started or have completed already the upgrade to full Galileo capabilities. As of early 2018, fully Galileo-enabled network RTK corrections started to be transmitted. You see here some of the pioneers, both from public and private reference stations managers. Additionally, the main PPP providers already support Galileo corrections. On the receiver side, to the right part of the slide, you see the supported constellations by receivers. Here, increasingly many constellations, to 3 and 4 especially, are already a reality in the receivers available today onto the high precision fields like surveying, agriculture, and timing. Additionally, increasingly many frequencies, up to all frequencies, are supported by almost 5% all frequencies, and triple frequency, it's already more than 15% being a reality at receiver level. Additionally, let me mention one trend highlighted by GPS World. It's expected that new augmentation techniques taking advantage of multi-constellation, multi-frequency will further give a push and bring almost instantaneous centimeter level positioning within a few years. With that, we covered the main trends in surveying market and technology, as well as highlighted the advantages of Galileo for surveying. Let's now tell you a bit more about the funding opportunities and research and development that we manage from GSA side. There are 2 main programs of R&D from GSA. So we put money on the table on 2 directions. On one hand, development of applications via Horizon 2020, and on the other side, on fundamental elements, ensuring the adoption of Galileo and EGNOS differentiators into innovative receivers, antennas, and chipsets. You might be quite familiar by now with both. Good news, upcoming options. As of October 16, the new call of Horizon 2020 will be open. You see the main 4 topics. So surveying would fit into for example, a few of these, like smart mobility or green and of societal resilience and environment, and so on. On the other hand, the fundamental elements coming opportunities touch upon some of the hot topics into across the market segments, for example, multipurpose Galileo antenna, advanced interference detection, so on and so forth. If you're interested in funding, please make sure you get the latest news by subscribing to our newsletter and monitor, because we are also organizing dedicated events for funding. In case of fundamental elements, dedicated webinars for each call, and for Horizon 2020, the big upcoming event is the Information Day and Brokerage event. So very soon, 11 and 12 of October in Prague. If you like to travel to Prague, it's also a very nice opportunity to have this information on the new call, as well as for networking. Concrete examples, how would it look like in practice? These are two examples of Age 2020 projects. One is MapKite. MapKite project has developed a tandem system composed of a UAV, a drone, and a mapping vehicle, a car, equipped with cameras, lidars, and so on. The two work in a tandem. The drone is following the vehicle and using the kinematic ground control points, also a novel concept. Therefore, this allows increased operations, for example, for urban canyon mapping, or also natural canyon mapping, and it's a simple to operate system and quite affordable for mapping professionals and, for example, road authorities and so on. It's covered by a few patents. Here's just one of them. Another project focused on mapping and surveying activities that we have at the moment ongoing in Age 2020 funding scheme is so-called GIMS. This is providing a low-cost system based on eGNSS and Copernicus. You might remember the slide on the landslide monitoring. This is actually making it, it's one of the initiatives to make it a reality. Copernicus, in this case, is providing vertical displacements via INSAR service, and Galileo is monitoring the horizontal displacements and provides the temporal interpolation and the geolocalization of the in-situ sensor. So therefore, you have continuous monitoring of both vertical and horizontal displacements. It targets to register deformations with millimetric level accuracy with daily acquisition rate. And also a part of the project is to provide real-time alerts in case of sudden movements. GSA is also supporting the Young Surveyor Prize. Fresh new ideas are coming from surveying industry, and the best people to do so are the young people or some of the best. GSA is sponsoring a special dedicated prize to Galileo, EGNOS, and Copernicus. We do this via our partner CLGE, and the new winner is announced in Intergeo. Every year we award the prize in Intergeo, this time in Frankfurt. Or this is another way we go towards gathering new initiatives of best usage of eGNSS in surveying. With this, we reached the end of what we wanted to share with you today. We expect that we will have quite some further questions, so maybe we can already open the floor. Here's how to stay in touch with us. We are reachable on all the modern media channels you can find. And for now, thank you for listening, and we are available for questions.
Thank you very much, Alina and Reinhard. Yeah, I see the one raised question from Eduard Scalona, so I'm opening the microphone for him. Eduard, you can speak.
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, great. So yeah, I have one question in one of the slides in the beginning. Sorry if it's not relevant because you passed it quite fast, about the target accuracy in the beginning, that you were targeting more kind of meters and now you are in the submeter range. My question was, this measured, it is a measured accuracy that you're getting now? It's an average? It's an optimal? How do you get those numbers?
Maybe I can take this. I think I know which slide you're referring to. As I remember, it's a ranging accuracy that is measured by the Galileo, by the JRC basically. I'm getting the slide to my eyes. If you go to our monthly performance report, you will be able to assess the technicalities of how exactly this measurement has been made. The message, however, is that consistently, we showed the numbers for March, but consistently Galileo is outperforming in terms of accuracy, but also other performance parameters.
Okay, no, I just found the numbers very interesting to reach submeter accuracy. I was wondering if this is something users can expect right now, or it's something we are going towards.
Well, this is based on Galileo only, and again, please download the quarterly report if you're interested in it, and you will have the more precise numbers. Of course, the more constellations and signals that are out there, the better is the accuracy also at a user level. And so what we're definitely seeing is, even without augmentation, an accuracy that is approaching a meter, and then with augmentation being S-Bus via EGNOS or other augmentation means, RTK, PPP, of course, we have a consistent increase in performance of precision.
Okay, thank you. And another question if I have time. I'm not sure if you mentioned also indoor location. I think I read somewhere that with the new Galileo system you can also provide better accuracy for indoor location in some cases that currently it's quite difficult to get a good position. Do you have anything or any numbers that can provide that can show that you have better accuracy for indoor as well?
Well, I've seen that piece of information as well. We are a bit hesitant to claim that we have a better indoor performance of Galileo, because in the end we are one of the GNSS and we know about the vulnerabilities of GNSS. It is true that depending on your specific situation, you can get a positioning fix in light indoor environments. But again, Galileo being just one GNSS and following the same laws, we know that we are reaching very quickly limitation when it comes to indoor navigation. This being said, of course, there are mitigation technologies being set up, and we see it today. Maybe if you, depending on which airport you are at, but you will be surprised that in some airports in Europe, you have full indoor navigation capability, including the level in which you are. And this is done by alternative and complementing technologies such as pseudolights.
Okay, thank you very much. And just one last quick question. You were talking about GNSS raw measurements for being used in smartphones. Can you say a bit what are these raw measurements?
Yes, I can explain a bit. So basically, it was quite of a, well, I'm hesitant to use the word revolution, but at least it was a big step when it comes to mobile navigation. Mobile meaning your smartphone. So as of Android 7, these raw measurements have been made accessible. That means before it was a black box. So basically you could not see or not influence what is happening with the raw measurements in your smartphone, but you were depending on basically the outcome of it. Okay. Google with Android 7 has opened this box. And so now application developers can play with these measurements and can also adapt it to their needs. We have the raw measurement task force, and in which we see quite a high interest. combined with some hackathons that we already organized, and we see that there's many ideas for innovative applications based on these raw measurements.
Just to complement, there was a paper published at ION reporting ways to use the raw measurements, resulting after the task force that GSA set up on it. So maybe you would like to consult it to actually understand the concrete usage and application of the raw measurements on Android platforms.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you too.
Hello.
Yes.
My name is Vasily Kiriyak. I'm representing 3 organizations. It's one of them is CLG, another is Technical University of Moldova, and also the Union of Surveyors of Moldova. So I have a few. The first of all, I wanted to thank you that you mentioned our CLG Young Surveyor Contest, that it's we have a very important meeting in Intergeo, and this year we also organize, and I hope to see you there. And the second one, I wanted to ask you about the national provider list of countries that are ready to implement or to use Galileo for RTK services as well. And I saw some country that it's Moldova is not included. Can you tell me what is the procedure to, let's say, to inform you about readiness to use Galileo, and do you have some requirement for that, or you send some request to National Mapping Agency for that, or provider? Thank you.
Thanks for that question, and also thanks for stressing the Young Surveyors Prize, the CLG Young Surveyors Prize that we are doing in cooperation with the CLG Association, which is a long-standing and long-year partner of the GSA promoting European GNSS. This is one of the examples, actually, when we talk about CLG as an example of other associations and multipliers we are working together of how we want to reach the community. One of the main objectives, common objectives that we have is putting the user in the center. The user will only be able to focus from Galileo if Galileo is in the receiver, but for high accuracy surveying and mapping also is integrated in the augmentation network provider system. RTK still being the gold standard, followed by PPP for many applications, is key for us to deliver benefits to the high accuracy community, and therefore we inform a lot the private, but here you are mentioning the public service providers, in order to answer questions, in order to give assistance, explain the benefits, share best practices when it comes to the upgrade towards Galileo. As Alina mentioned, this is an ongoing process. Some public service providers have completed this upgrade. Some are in the middle of doing so, and some have decided to go for it. This being said, maybe we can take the opportunity to update you on these numbers during the next CLG General Assembly that takes place, I believe, in October in Barcelona. So that would be a good platform where we can share the more precise numbers on that.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah.
We also could highlight that at our platform, usegalileo.eu, we have a listing of such providers that have started to upgrade to Galileo. We are continuously updating this list, and we'll provide more details also at CLGE. But that's a public spot where you can actually check such providers as well.
Yeah, thank you, Alina. I want to say that maybe we'll discuss during the Barcelona executive meeting the possibility to organize the same webinar with CLGE in order to include more private companies in this kind of seminar.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so we will iterate on that when we meet in Barcelona.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much as well.
Okay, thank you, Vasile. I don't see any other raised hand, and from the questions in the chat window, I see the only request from the Somnath Mahato, the person from India, from Burdwan University. He's asking where he could learn more about the GSA activities, and if there is a webinar or more workshops available where he could learn more about Galileo. So yeah, I think, yeah, maybe you can answer. Yeah.
Thank you. We are also finished with this slide capturing all the available channels of GSA. We also, maybe a quite useful tool to answer this question is the YouTube channel. We have several, the GSA YouTube channel is providing videos with target topics, for example, Galileo and EGNOS for mapping and surveying, and so on. You also could find links from this from our main website. There are several presentations available also for SlideShare, via SlideShare. We can follow us on Twitter. You can connect to the Facebook page where we are the typical social media environments where we also publish updates and all key articles.
Okay, thank you very much. There is one question regarding the presentations. Adnan Delachshep is asking when will presentation be uploaded and how to see them. I could respond that the presentations will be available from the same website of Eurogeographics website where you got information about this webinar and where the registration has been arranged. So if you look to the archived events at Eurogeographics website, and you'll find this webinar, or as well you can find on the Positioning Knowledge Exchange Network pages. But I'll send a notification to everyone again where the record and the slides will become available. So it will be happening today. Apart of this question, I do not see any other raised hand and do not see any other post question in the chat window. So this means that the presentation was crystal clear, and of course, if there are more questions, then probably you can communicate to Alina and Reinhard by email to GSA, or you can pass the question to me by my email address, and I'll pass to the responsible presenter or any other person that could respond to your question. Alina and Reinhard, do you have anything to add at the end? Otherwise, I'm looking to close the webinar.
Well, a big thank you, of course, to you and the Eurogeographics to open this channel for us, and looking forward to have similar webinars in the future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Saul, and thank you to all the listeners today. And indeed, don't hesitate to come back to us shall you need further answers or clarifications. Thank you.
So thank you very much. Thanks to audience, and have a good day. I'm closing the webinar now. Thank you and bye.